On Business Incorporated today. Statistics South Africa revises economic growth upward. Ghana currency heads for weakest rate ever. And Ethiopia risks U.S. trade access on Tigray rights violations. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's head straight to the market, starting on the African continent. It's mixed sentiment at intraday. Nigeria's NGX was trading in the green, up 0.03%. While the Jersey of South Africa was in the red, it was down 0.53%. EGX 30 of Egypt is, however, doing good, really good, up almost 1%, while Kenya closed negative at the end of Wednesday's session. It was down 0.52%. We move over to the Middle East now. Major markets with tracker trading in the negative territory as at intraday. Abu Dhabi had lost 0.52%, while Dubai lost marginally 0.09%. Elsewhere in the region, Saudi Arabia lost 0.34%, while Qatar shared 0.41%. Let's go to Europe now, where shares pull back on Thursday following global market mood. But we'll have details from Chelsea, who is joining us from Frankfurt. Hello, Chelsea. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So Germany's delivery hero said its loss doubled in the first half of the year. And that's despite pandemic boom in food deliveries. Why is that? Why are they struggling to turn a profit?
Well, the pandemic has really been a blessing for delivery companies like Delivery Hero. People stuck at home, restaurants closed. They really turned to delivery services like Delivery Hero. But that hasn't meant that these companies have become profitable yet. Delivery Hero saw its orders basically double in the first half of this year. Revenues tripled, but it still saw a much bigger loss than it had in the year before. And that's because they're having to invest a lot of money into growing their business right now. The food delivery business is extremely competitive, and the only way to really survive is to become very big. So Delivery Hero has been buying up competitors around the world. It's also been expanding its business lines. It's doing things like grocery deliveries now. So all of that is a big investment, and that means they're going to be losing money. So they're making these big investments. It's unclear when those will start to pay off.
Yeah, because remember that Delivery Hero also bought stakes into Deliveroo in the UK just less than a month ago. Anyway, so yesterday we talked about the pessimism among German businesses, and we have a report that says it's getting even worse.
Yes, so this was a report out today from an organization here in Germany called GfK. This shows that consumers are also growing more and more downcast about the economy here in Germany. Yesterday, we saw a survey showing that businesses were becoming more pessimistic. That's also spread over to consumers. So consumers are very concerned about the rise in coronavirus infections that we're seeing here in Germany. They're worried that we will have to see an introduction of more restrictions, even though politicians have said that's not their goal right now. But consumers are worried nonetheless. And that's really important for the economy because people are starting to pull back on spending. They don't want to spend as much money. They want to save money just in case we do start to see another lockdown. So that is likely to add more pressure onto the German economy right now, which is also struggling with supply chain issues, rising inflation, really just a lot of different challenges facing the economy here and around the world right now.
Yeah, COVID is not over yet. Well, G20 leaders are gathering in Italy today for a conference on women's empowerment. Do we know what's on the agenda?
So this was a very highly anticipated conference. It's the first time G20 leaders have had a summit on the question of gender equality. Initially, this was expected to focus on things like how the pandemic has hit women particularly hard. Many mothers have had to pull out of the workforce because they have to care for their children. This has been described as a huge setback for gender equality, but this is all, of course, being very much overshadowed by Afghanistan. And we've already heard today from several leaders leaders at the G20 conference, like Mario Draghi, that they want to put more pressure on the Taliban to give women and girls the right to have a job, to go to school, which is something they didn't do in their past government. So the G20 is hoping that they can put some pressure on the Taliban. We've also heard people at this conference talking about maybe writing a letter to force more pressure onto the G20 and onto the Taliban as well. But I'd say right now there's a lot of talk about how they can encourage this, but there isn't a lot of action. What is maybe a bit more concrete is that a lot of governments, including the German government, have said they will increase aid to Afghan refugees, to people on the ground in Afghanistan who need it, like women and children. The German government has said they would be willing to spend about 100 billion euros. Other countries like Mexico have also said that they will prioritize visa applications from women and girls as well. So there are some concrete steps that countries are taking, but right now there's also a lot of more ephemeral actions that these G20 leaders are talking about today.
All right. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for the update, and enjoy the rest of your day. So this morning, during Business Morning, we talked about UK car production, which fell to the lowest in 65 years. And we're obviously feeling the impact of chip shortage, among other things. We also see how this is affecting supply chain persistently, where we have Juliana joining us from our London studios to give us details of what's going on with this. Hello, Juliana. Good to speak with you again.
Good afternoon, Innie.
Good afternoon. So the Labour Party are urging ministers to act on the UK supply chain crisis before it gets worse. Have we had any reactions to this yet?
Well, yeah, it's a massive story at the moment, and the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been doing the media rounds, basically saying that it's a Tory government failure, which is why we're seeing acute shortages here in the UK. This morning I discussed with you on Business Morning just how badly it's affected the car production industry, but food obviously is of more importance, and now the likes of Greggs, Costa and Subway have joined McDonald's, KFC and Nando's in talking about just how it's affecting their production flows. And also Iceland, which is one of the big four supermarkets here in the UK, said that Christmas could be ruined for some families because they won't be able to get pigs in blankets. I don't know if you know about that food item, but it's a big popular item on Christmas dinners, and it is quite a serious story. Now, earlier in the week, Logistics UK, as well as the Retail Consortium, they wrote to the Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, a warning of a shortage of about 90,000 haulage drivers. No drivers, nobody to get the food into the stores. That's an issue. And Labour is saying this is because of really strict Brexit migration policies. Lots of these drivers are seasonal. Many of them went back to their home countries in the EU during the pandemic, and they haven't come back. So it's a massive, massive problem, and they are asking the government to sort it out swiftly.
And Virgin Money, one of Britain's biggest retail banks, is closing its charitable giving arm. What are you hearing about this?
Yeah, nothing has been confirmed yet, but lots of reports here in the UK saying that, yes, the charitable arm of Virgin Money is to close after about 12 years. They're most notable for sponsoring the London Marathon, which is now called the Virgin Money London Marathon. The last sponsorship of the marathon is due to take place in October. Over the past 12 years, they've raised about £900 million. So they certainly have made a blueprint, but according to industry insiders, it's just unsustainable. It's costing them millions of pounds each year to operate. We know that Virgin, even though they had that successful flight to the edge of space, they have had some serious money problems during the pandemic, which is one of the reasons why it's believed that they are shutting down. Of course, it is going to be controversial. Many would say that there are other things that Virgin can do to try and make the business or the not-for-profit organisation sustainable. But as I said, it's yet to be confirmed by Virgin Money, but lots of media reports in the UK are speculating that an announcement is imminent.
Yeah, and well, we know we're waiting for GDP tomorrow, but let's see how the markets are doing at this time.
Well, yeah, the FTSE very much in the red at intraday. Lots of sentiment is headed stateside. I know that Jerome Powell is due to make a statement at the central bank. And of course, we are actually going to get the final GDP Q2 figures from America, the world's largest economy. All eyes and ears are waiting on that, as well as the weekly jobless data. So the FTSE all share at intraday is down 0.36%. The FTSE 100 also down by 0.42%. And the FTSE 250, the domestic market, down too, at 0.04%. In currencies, the British pound also down on the US dollar by 0.15%, down again on the euro by 0.21%, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.11%. Inni.
Thank you so much, Juliana, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So let's move to Asia now. Asia-Pacific markets mostly declined today despite overnight gains on Wall Street, while South Korea became the first major economy to raise interest rates during the pandemic. The Bank of Korea raised its base rate by 25 basis points, 0.75%, for the first time in nearly 3 years. South Korean stocks were mixed. The benchmark Kospi fell 0.58% to 3,128.53 points. In Australia, the AX200 fell 0.54% as the COVID-19 situation in the country continued to weigh on investor sentiment. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 finished near the flat line at 27,742.29 points, while the Topix index was a little change at 1,935.35. Elsewhere, Hong Kong Hang Seng index tumbled 1.32%, while Chinese mainland share also declined. The Shanghai Composite fell 1.09%, while the Shenzhen component was down 1.92%. We move over to the U.S. now. S&P 500 futures were lower this morning following the benchmark's rally above the 4,500 level for the first time ever in the prior session. S&P 500 futures lost 0.1%. Nasdaq 100 futures were down 0.22%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average futures were flat. Meanwhile, the weekly jobless claim data and second quarter GDP estimates are expected later on today, as Juliana talked about some minutes ago. Yesterday, the S&P 500 gained 0.22% to close at a record, led by stocks that benefit from the economic reopening, like airlines, cruise lines, and financials. The 500 stock average crossed the 4,500 threshold for the first time ever yesterday, but closed below that level. The benchmark is up 105% from its pandemic low. The Nasdaq Composite rose 0.15%, also notching a record close, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 39 points yesterday. In the global oil space now, prices fell in early trade for the first session in 4 amid renewed concerns about demand recovery as more restrictions are imposed to curb COVID-19 infections. Brent crude was down 0.93% at $71.61 a barrel, having risen 1.7% yesterday. U.S. oil was down 1.02% at $67.66 a barrel, and that's after gaining 1.2%. Fresh outbreak fueled by Delta variant of the coronavirus are raising concerns about the strength of the economic recovery globally, eating demand for oil and other commodities. In the metals market now, gold extended losses into a third day early today as the dollar and the U.S. Treasury yields gained as investors await Fed's speech on strategy for tapering economic support. Spot gold fell 0.3%, while U.S. gold futures edged 0.3% lower. Elsewhere, silver and platinum fell 0.9% to $23.65 a barrel and $987.63 per ounce, respectively. Also, palladium slipped 1.1%. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head straight to the African continent. Just stay with us. It's Business Incorporated on Channels Television. You're welcome back to the program. Now, currently, there are 26 sesame growing states in Nigeria. The country's export of sesame seeds has been fluctuating between 140,000 to 180,000 tons per year in recent years, with the most important destinations located in the Middle East and Asia. Sesame seeds could become one of Nigeria's leading non-oil exports, but revenue generated from sesame exports in the first quarter of this year went to $102 million, and it declined approximately by 15% from the corresponding period last year, which was $120 million, but increased from $66.4 million recorded in the fourth quarter of 2020. Obviously, COVID-19 has a lot to do with that, and exports of sesame seeds have been volatile. Well, what are the reasons behind this, apart from COVID now? We have Sheyi Omidiora, analyst with financial derivatives, joining us to give some answers from his own perspective of this issue. Hello, Sheyi. Good to have you again, second time this week.
Yes, thank you very much. Good to have you today.
Yes. So first of all, help us to understand the value chain in the production and export of sesame seed.
Yes, for starters, we know for sure that the farmers who produce, who grow and manufacture these sesame seeds are part of the value chain. We also know of the processing and aggregation as well, and of course, the cleaning of the sesame seeds. Now, for farmers, a lot of the farming, a lot of the planting, a lot of the harvesting of sesame seeds are being done in the north and north central basin of the country, and the apex body for these farmers, these smallholder farmers, is called the National Sesame Seeds Association of Nigeria. Now, they are the apex body who oversees the planting and oversees the farmers. Now, we also know of the harvesting and transporting and aggregating. Now, this is done primarily by private sector individuals who aggregate these crops from the smallholder farms, and they take these products to the markets. Now, we are also aware of the cleaning after the transporting from and aggregating from these farmers. And in the global markets, you can add a lot more premium to your pricing if the cleaner your sesame seeds, and of course, some firms also end up doing the cleaning here in Nigeria to make sure that they can add sufficient premium to their prices. So those are the 3 or 4 sectors, or the 3 or 4 value chains that we currently have in Nigeria today.
All right, so we see the price going from $102 million to $120 million to $66.4 million. What's behind this volatility and movement in price?
Yes, for a fact, we know that the sesame seed production in Nigeria is about the second largest in Africa. But in terms of the pricing and the volatility in pricing, the primary thing for sure is we know for a fact that the pricing has to do primarily with the fact that exporters cannot have access to the port on time. It's one thing to be able to aggregate the product from the markets, from the farmers. It's another thing to be able to access the port to be able to export this product. Now, we know today that aggregating is also a major problem in Nigeria today. A lot of these smallholder farms are inaccessible. There's terrible infrastructure when it comes to road networks. And that's one thing. Another thing for sure is that we have a lot of tankers that are unable to access the ports. They spend days or weeks in line just to access the ports today. And these, of course, are 2 reasons why production and subsequently exports and pricing have been affected in Nigeria today.
So the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA, is one platform that Nigeria is seeking to, make good use of. The sesame seed, can it be one of our comparative advantages when we're talking about AfCFTA?
Well, yes, it can be, but the question we need to ask is whether Nigeria itself has built sufficient infrastructure As I mentioned earlier, it's one thing to be able to aggregate the product. It's another thing to be able to export the product. Today, as it stands, it's a problem getting this product from the farms to the export to the port where these products are going to be exported. For sure, Nigeria has a comparative advantage, being the second largest producer of sesame seeds in Africa as it stands. But the problem is the fact that it's very hard to access the ports. So instead of us to be excited that the AfCFTA has been signed and ratified, it's more important to note that export infrastructure is not in place today currently. And this, of course, needs to get investment in this sector needs to be done first before we can start looking at being able to maximize our potential in this particular in exporting sesame seeds.
All right, thank you so much, Shey Omidiola, analyst with Financial Derivatives, for bringing that up. We've always been talking about infrastructure in production and improving our non-oil exports. Well, we do hope we'll continue to talk about it and hope that it brings the best fruits very soon. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So let's move to South Africa now. Statistics South Africa has revised upwards the country's economy by 11%, following a rigorous benchmarking and rebasing process. Stats says that the revised estimate of gross domestic product last year was 5,521 billion rand, compared to the previous estimate of 4,973 billion rand. An increase of 11%. Stats SA also revised the annual GDP growth rate for 2020 from -7% to -6% for next month. Stats SA will publish the GDP for the second quarter of this year. And still in South Africa, South Africa Airways has announced that it will retake to the skies as of the 23rd of next month, September, servicing the Johannesburg-Cape Town route and 5 other African regional destinations. The airline said as they prepare for takeoff, they have one common purpose, and that is to be profitable and once again take leadership role among local, continental and international airlines. The airline has been grounded for 15 months since late March last year, when the country went into a COVID-19 hard lockdown, and the SSA's financial crisis worsened, among the worst crises for the aviation industry in its history. In Ghana, the biggest injection of dollars yet by Ghana's central bank failed to stem the cedi's slide on Wednesday amid a surge in foreign currency demand from importers. The Ghanaian currency dropped 1.6% to 6.03 a dollar in Accra, poised for the weakest close on record. That erased the 1.4% gain on Tuesday after the Bank of Ghana tripled the amount of dollars offered at the forward rate auction to $75 million. That's the most since the sales began in 2019. The currency of the world's second biggest cocoa producer has weakened every month since May as an economic revival following the pandemic spurred companies into soak up dollars to purchase goods to expand. The country's trade surplus narrowed to 1.2% of gross domestic product in the first half from 1.5% a year earlier as imports increased. And in Ethiopia, the humanitarian crisis in Ethiopia's northern region could affect Ethiopia's eligibility to export goods to the United States under the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Ethiopia exported goods worth $239 million to the U.S. in 2019 under AGOA, which was more than 40% of its total shipments to the U.S. by June 2021. Ethiopia had exported $128.7 million of goods under the program, consisting of apparel and leather products. According to a U.S. Trade Report, the issue of human rights violations in the ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis in northern Ethiopia could affect the future of AGOA and its eligibility. 38 African countries were eligible for duty-free access to the U.S. market in 2020 under AGOA. And in Egypt, the state-run Abukar Fertilizers and Al-Hali Capital Holding Company, part of the National Bank of Egypt, have signed a shareholder agreement for the establishment of a petrochemicals company. The first phase of the project will produce 1 million tons of methanol and 400,000 tons of ammonia per year, with an investment cost estimated $1.6 billion. Under the agreement, Abu Kar Fertilizers Company and another fertilizer company will hold 35%, while Al-Hali Capital Holding will hold the remaining 30% stake in the new company. Well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ini John Mekwa.